everyone, my name's Kristen. I also go by Ms.Filmingo, and thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to share my exclusive interview with Lucca Vieira, who is the filmmaker behind the film The Midway Point, which will be available on demand May 19th. The Midway Point is a wonderful, heartfelt coming of age drama that explores identity, friendship, first love, belonging, as it looks through the lens of a young man navigating life on the autism spectrum. But before we jump into the interview, let me give you all a brief synopsis about the Midway Point. Jake, played by Sean Ryan Fox, a high schooler on the autism spectrum, feels disillusioned with the world around him. When he meets Alice, played by Catherine Daddario, a brash and outgoing classmate, he begins to experience the world in other ways. Little does Jake know that secretly, Alice may have more in common with him than he could ever imagine. Now that you know a little bit about the film, let's cut over to my interview with Luca. Okay, thank you, Luca, so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with me. I really enjoyed the midway point. I want to get to know you as a filmmaker first. You've been creating projects and skits, animations for a long time at a very young age. Why did you want to become a filmmaker and a director?
I feel like film has always been kind of like a major part of my life. I've always been just playing around with cameras ever since I was very, very young. But I guess it came to me when I was 9 or 10. I had just finished watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, just a really bad p- pirated copy of it. And I just instantly fell in love with it. And I knew kind of right then and there that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I want to become a filmmaker. And it's just been going on ever since then. I feel the passion has never really burnt out yet.
Yeah. Well, I know you got a lot of creative juices going, and I saw a lot of stuff that you've been working on. But the one thing that really stood out to me that you did work on was Parkland Stories from the Survivors. Was it like making short films to making your feature film?
A short film is not too much different from making a feature film. You're still going through some similar emotions, finding the cast, finding the crew, change your plans, something doesn't quite work in the end and you kind of had to massage it in post. I guess the main difference going from short documentaries and short narrative films to making a long form feature length film was just, you know, the structure, the amount of structure I was allowed to have and
Right.
the increased opportunities, which also come with its downside, surprisingly. But I feel like a lot of my just knowledge as a director has increased since then. I've managed to uh, know more about my craft and learn more, and it's just been a really fun experience. And I feel like every set that you're on, no matter if it's a short, no matter if it's a feature, it teaches you something about your craft. And it's really just at the end of the day, it's kind of like a film school, you
It
know?
is like a film school. You learn so much from being on film sets. Now, getting into the midway point, I saw you felt inspiration to create this movie from films like Lost in Translation, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is immediately a film when I was watching it. I was like, oh, yeah, this definitely feels like Perks of Being a Wallflower. Why did you want to tell this story, and why is it the story you believe audiences need right now?
I feel like in the world we live in, there's so much noise and so much constant chaos. I feel like people kind of need to and want to watch stories that make them feel connected in some way to other people and, kind of are relatable to them. And I feel like that's the main thing I was trying to do with the midway point. I started writing it uh, towards the end of my junior year of high school.
Wow.
as just a means of expressing kind of some observations and experiences I had, obviously growing up on the autistic spectrum, but also just growing up feeling kind of alienated and on the outside of what I was experiencing, and really just wanting to feel connected with people, which is I feel like just a universal theme, especially like in current Gen Z.
Yeah, definitely. I really felt connected to the character of Jake, played wonderfully by Sean Ryan Fox. You did an amazing job casting him. So, what was it like working with him and Catherine Daddario?
I mean, Sean was just a wonderful person to work with. I made kind of like the deliberate choice of not revealing certain plot elements to the actors who auditioned for Jake because I didn't want them to play autistic. I didn't want
Right.
them to focus so much on that aspect of things because there's a lot more to Jake than just his autism.
Yeah.
He wants to be an animator. He has this rich inner world within him. He just so happens to be on the spectrum. So, um, I remember Sean's audition was just so on point. He got the character, he understood the tone, and he was just very quick on set to make adjustments or corrections, and we just had a great working relationship. With Catherine Daddario, it was a similar story. I mean, she really understood the character, and I feel like she added a sense of inner turmoil to her, which was what I wanted originally. Whether she's neurodivergent or not, I feel like is besides the point. I feel like
Yeah.
what I wanted to focus on with her was just this character who was, living behind a sort of facade. She wants to be, the popular cool girl and, very brash and very bold, but really she's just using this as a mask to hide her inner self, which she doesn't really want she's afraid of showing the world.
I want to get more into, creating the character of Jake. Did you find it very challenging to write him, or did you draw from your own personal experience from being in high school and navigating life?
Honestly, instinctively, a lot of the experiences were not necessarily experiences that I had personally,
Yeah.
but that I felt and that I had experienced on the outside. Certainly, the feelings that Jake felt of just not being understood and not being included in certain
Yeah.
situations were feelings that I felt and that I had kind of struggled with myself. And I mean, the rest was just, you know, observations that I had. A lot of it wasn't, didn't really happen in real life, but it was just the the mood of the scene. And I feel like Jake was just a very easy character to write because while I wouldn't say I was him, there were just a lot of similarities between us two.
Hmm.
And it was just it was just a fun character to play, as was, writing Alice.
Yeah, totally. And now getting into the film's title, The Midway Point. Why did you want to call the film The Midway Point?
I'd say two reasons behind that title. The midway point for me was a way of expressing the sentiment of not quite being a child, not quite fitting into the childhood, but also not being, part of the adult world yet. So you're kind of in the middle of everything, hence the midway point.
Hmm.
The other thing the other reason was that I feel like when you're neurodivergent in some way, or if you're on the spectrum also, you kind of always try to pretend that you've got things under control and that you present yourself as a certain type of person a lot of the time. And, instantly when that mask slips, it's kind of like you're in between, the normal, neurotypical world.
Right.
and a world that you might not want other people to see initially, and that you're afraid to show. And that's the main uh, reasoning behind that, because I feel like it's just important to address these themes in the story, even though there's no like necessarily like bullying, explicit
Right.
bullying or anything in that in the film. There's this feeling of just not being accepted or not being understood completely.
But now going into something I also noticed when I was looking at the end credits, you wrote the film, directed the film, but you also worked on some music. Can you discuss working on some of the songs for the film?
Yeah, I mean, those were just a lot of fun to make. I also I'm an electronic musician myself, so I write songs, and I also whenever I'm working on a feature, I or a film of any sort, I always kind of have in my mind the kind of music that I want to put in
Yeah.
and add. I was working with my composer Danielle, uh, and he suggested that I write certain songs for the score, and they watching the film again, I feel like they fit in fairly well, and
Yes, they do.
I feel it was just a fun process, and it's always fun to let your creative juices flow, not necessarily in their primary place of being, I guess.
Well, I'm glad you got to get creative on the music side, but I just have one thought about maybe some of the animations that Jake draws in the film. Are those yours, the animations, or is that somebody else's? Because I was so curious because I did like his artwork.
Yeah, so that was I believe someone else. I believe it was maybe our production designer's partner that drew some of those, but some of the animations in the film were actually mine. I think
Oh,
there's one little
cool.
cartoon that I did of like this Floridian guy who drives his Lamborghini or Ferrari into the ocean because Jesus told him
Okay.
to.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and I did have some input at the end of the day as to what artwork would be included
Oh
in the
yeah. Oh
film.
yeah, totally. And now one thing I noticed about this film, it has a very natural, warm tone and look. Can you discuss working with cinematographer Noah Luke and developing the film style?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things I kind of emphasized and that Noah, our DP, immediately got was this kind of naturalistic, handheld but not, shaky handheld look. One of my main references was obviously Lost in Translation, which I mean, I
Yeah,
have the poster for it, so just that kind of uh, ethereal, very hazy look is what I want to go for. Also, one of my main references, camera movement wise, which is Y tu mamá también. Even though like a lot of like that film's themes are slightly different from mine. Mine's a lot more withdrawn, I'd say. Um, just that kind of like instability that I want to have that kind of in this film helps sell the idea that he's Jake is has his inner turmoil, and he's in a state of even though it's not constant anxiety, he feels anxious a lot of the time, and
yeah,
he has his worries. um And I also was heavily inspired by Krzysztof Kieślowski's films, the Three Colors trilogy, Double Life of Veronique, and just having that sort of stylized but naturalistic combination
right.
of
Yeah.
looks.
Now, as we start to wrap up, I do have two more questions. The first one being, who are some of the filmmakers that inspire you?
Obviously, one of my main inspirations and the reason I got into filmmaking was Stanley Kubrick. Just his style of framing and characterization and his just sheer vision. One of the filmmakers that I am also very inspired by is Krzysztof Kieślowski, which I mentioned before,
Yes.
Andrzej Zdłowski, Lars von Trier, David Cronenberg, uh, just all those guys. Andrea Arnold is also a really good, really cool influence of mine, and Lynn Ramsey and David Lynch. I have so many,
All the
but
greats, all the
um,
greats. And now, getting into my last question, do you want to direct a horror film? Because I can totally tell, Shining is one of your favorites. I can see in the back. And the character of Alice is really into horror. Do you hope to direct a horror movie one day?
so I'm actually working on my second feature at the moment, which is a horror film. It's body horror of all things,
Ooh.
and it's called Shift. It's about this insecure teenage model who buys this off-brand cosmetic drug that alters her body, and basically it all goes downhill from there. And we're currently going in towards pre-production on it. I don't want to, spoil too many details of it, but
Yeah.
we hope to start filming probably by the end of the year, early next year.
That's going to wrap up my interview with Luca. Make sure you check out his film, The Midway Point, available on demand May 19th. This also wraps up today's video, so please comment, like, and share. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so I can bring you more videos like this. Stay up to date by following me on social media. The links are provided down below. I'll see you all next time. Bye!